Good morning, everybody. It's been a little bit since I uploaded a video here to YouTube. Of course, I've had thoughts and things I wanted to talk about the whole way along here, but the way they were going after conservatives on YouTube, especially ones that kind of push the envelope, I decided to just take a little break and focus on work, focus on my family. And but of course I've got a brain full of negativity and some good stuff that I just wanted to get off my chest, so I figured I'd share it here to YouTube. I got a new truck, so hopefully it's a little quieter. I switched from a diesel to a gas. I had a Ram 2500 diesel. It's my second one, and just when it gets cold out, the Ram, both of them, the first one I had, the second one I have, started giving me all kinds of electrical issues and stuff like that. And it's probably something that could have been fixed, but I just kind of got a wild hair up my butt and went and saw a truck that I really liked. It's a F-250 with the 7.3 liter gas motor, and it's got the Tremor off-road package. I've had about 2 weeks. So far, so good. I pull a trailer for work, probably about 8,000 pounds, sometimes up to 10,000 pounds. Seems to pull just about as well as the diesel. Of course, I haven't been on any long trips, any real uphill situations, but anyways, this is not a truck video. This is a political video. Pretty much the only area I really want to get on here and speak on, politics, me and everybody else. But I think I have a decent perspective on things, so I would like to share it. The first couple things on my mind are what's going on in the next presidential race, and I'm not trying to diminish the importance of local elections and governor races and town council and school boards and stuff like that. However, I do want to stress that, of course, I'm a big Trump supporter. I was a big Trump supporter, and I still am a big Trump supporter. He's done some things I really like. He's done some things I don't like. I think his ego got in his way as far as being a politician, but I think he did a decent job of keeping that in check towards the end. But I want to talk about another candidate that, you know, you've probably already thought of him since I said that, and I think he needs to be our next Republican candidate for president, and that's Ron DeSantis out of Florida. He kind of popped onto the scene here with this COVID situation. Nobody nationally really knew who he was, although, crazy as it sounds, he won his governor race in Florida a few years back against, I'm going to forget the guy's name, but he's a Democrat, obviously, and I think DeSantis beat them by about 40,000 votes, so it was close. And this Democrat, his opposition, who lost, got caught just a few weeks after the election in a Miami motel room or hotel room with at least one or a couple male prostitutes, and they were smoking meth all night and playing around with prostitutes, and the cops busted in and found all this paraphernalia, and I'm not sure what happened with him, but I'm sure he didn't go to jail for it, at least not for any more than a day. But it's crazy to think that a guy as good as Ron DeSantis almost lost to a crackhead. So thank God he won, and good for Florida. Florida is my home state. We took a visit down to Florida a few months ago for vacation so my wife and daughter could see where I'm from. We had a good time. I'm from Palm Beach County, so that's kind of Trump country down there because he lives on Palm Beach at Mar-a-Lago. So I want to compare and contrast Trump and DeSantis. In my opinion, I think Trump needs to bow out. I think he needs to endorse DeSantis, campaign for and with DeSantis. Now, this is if DeSantis wants to run for president. I think he probably does. Not because he wants the job of being president, but I think he feels a sense of responsibility to do what's best for the country. He's a real patriot, and I was listening to an interview with him and Ben Shapiro last week, and he really sounds like a patriot who understands the founding of this country. He understands liberty. He understands what it is to be a conservative. And I think his heroes are the founding fathers. And anybody who thinks along those lines is a winner in my book. Now, I wouldn't be opposed to Trump running. If Trump ran, I would vote for him. I don't think they'll run in opposition to each other. I think it'll be one or the other, because they're both so popular. And I would hope they would figure out not to dilute the vote between the two of them. So as it stands, I would vote for Trump if he ran. However, I would prefer that Ron DeSantis, run for president, and he'd have my unwavering support. He's the type of guy where I'd volunteer for his campaign. I mean, I would donate, contribute. I would do the best I could to get his name out there. He's very popular where I'm from. I live in the South. In fact, we were out on the boat towards the end of summer, and I saw a guy come by in his boat with a big flag that said DeSantis 2024, make America Florida again, or something along those lines. I thought that was great. But DeSantis, he's much more measured. He has no problem taking on the media. He's a straight shooter. When he calls BS, when he sees BS, he calls BS. And I think that's what we need. Trump did that. I think DeSantis does it in a more polished way that could maybe gain the support of the independents that Trump really rubbed the wrong way. DeSantis is caught in between libertarianism and conservatism. He came out last week and he basically, through executive action, said that businesses could not enforce a vaccine mandate. Now, a libertarian would say, well, who is this government figure to tell businesses what they can and can't do? And he had a very good response for it, and I'm going to butcher it, but it was somewhere along the lines of, people have the right to do pretty much anything, but they do not have the right to do wrong. And he's exactly right. If a government is forcing a vaccine mandate, or if a business is, on its employees, and they're at risk of losing their job because they don't want to take the vaccine, whether it be just a purely personal choice, whether they're waiting on more research, whether they've had COVID before, and based on the Israeli studies, people who have contracted COVID have much better immunity that doesn't wane as quickly as the vaccine. And he's acknowledging those points, and he's thinking outside the box. He's not just, hardline, whatever the CDC says, whatever Dr. Fauci says, that's what we're going to do. So I'm not for government getting involved with businesses, to dictate what they can and cannot do. I don't think the government should pick winners and losers, but that's not what's happening in this scenario. The same way the government came in and mandated that businesses were not allowed to refuse service to black people. They had to treat black people the same as they treated everyone else. And that was the right move, because there were a lot of private businesses, mainly in the South, but some in the northern bordering states, that even after the Civil War, they didn't want to let black people in their establishment. And the government, rightfully so, came in and said, you can't do that. And that's what DeSantis has basically done with this vaccine thing. So, good on people in Florida. I hope if he does run again for governor in Florida, he gets reelected. I think that's a slam dunk. But we've all seen that elections, how do I go about saying this without getting kicked off YouTube? Elections can go any way the establishment wants them to go, regardless of how much the people may think it's a slam dunk. I believe that there's a way for them to manipulate elections to get what they want. I think Trump took them by storm in 2016, and they weren't able to overcome Trump's massive popularity in face of their nefarious tactics. They got him in 2020, but and Trump had all the opportunity in the world while he was the president to straighten out this voting situation. And I know they threw mail-in ballots in at the last minute based on COVID and yada, yada, yada. But that was a long-term initiative by the left, was to allow mail-in voting. And of course, to not allow voter ID and things like this. So Trump had the opportunity to clean up elections when he was president. And I think he did some stuff, but I don't think he did enough. So that's my perspective on DeSantis and Trump. I think DeSantis has got to be our guy. He's Ivy League educated. He's been up there with all the wacky liberals in New England. He's a Florida native. He specifically said in his interview with Ben Shapiro that it was a culture shock for him coming from a small town in Florida to a place like Yale, where the school motto is God, Country, Yale. And DeSantis basically said, well, he gets there and all the students and faculty would demean you if you believed in God. Of course, they're all atheists, they follow the science. And as far as the country part goes, they all hated America. They wanted to destroy it. I mean, these people are communists. They're communists dressed up as democratic socialists. Thank God DeSantis made it out of that shitstorm, for lack of a better word. And he got his Ivy League degree. I also believe he went to Harvard for law school. He played baseball along the way, America's pastime. He's got a nice family. He has 3 young children. He has a wife who was just diagnosed with breast cancer, so they're battling that right now. If Trump has any humility, and I know that's a stretch, if he has any humility, he needs to sit back and let him be the Obama of the Republican Party. Let him kind of sit up there and oversee everything and advise and give his input and stuff like that, and let DeSantis grab the reins of the executive branch and basically get the bureaucracy to slow down. Put some roadblocks in front of this bureaucracy and not allow them to overreach the Constitution. I forget which agency it was. One of the higher courts, maybe the 5th District, put a pause to Biden's vaccine mandate on companies with 100 or more employees. And of course he drops it on OSHA to make them do it. And I believe the 5th Circuit Court said, nope, we're going to put a pause to this. We're going to let the Supreme Court hear it, and we'll go from there. So the White House press secretary comes out and says, just ignore what that court said. Just ignore it. Do whatever Biden says. That's unreal. If that were Trump, there'd be riots in the street. If he said to ignore a high court. So, DeSantis 2024, if Trump doesn't run, I don't know who DeSantis would pick as his VP. I don't think it really matters. I think that's pretty much a meaningless position in the administration. But he's a strong, patriotic character that I think this country needs. And he certainly shares my values, and I think he shares the values of many, many millions of Americans. So on to Kyle Rittenhouse. Obviously, he got found not guilty on all those charges. I know that's a lightning rod for the left. They don't understand what happened that night. Very few of them have seen any of the video coverage. Very few of them have watched the trial. And I'm sure somebody will pop up in the comments and say, I watched all of it and it's still nonsense. Well, a jury in Wisconsin saw the evidence, paid close attention to it, spent days deliberating, which had me sweating bullets, and came back with a not guilty verdict on all counts. I mean, it's very simple. It was a very simple case of self-defense. And then the left tries to argue the gun and crossing state lines and why was he there and blah, blah, blah. Well, the gun did not cross state lines. He picked it up in Wisconsin. The state line thing is BS. He lived 20 minutes from the city of Kenosha. He had family ties there. He worked there. His father lived there. His father, I believe, owned a business there. You know, and it's funny because I live in a border town. I work in a large city, but I live just across the border of the state in a small town. So I cross state lines every single day to go to work. So that's a bunch of malarkey. And I know there's gun laws here and there that, you know, bordering states don't necessarily acknowledge the gun laws of the other states. So, but Kyle beat all that. He picked up his rifle in Wisconsin. Big deal. He crossed state lines. The liberals are so up in arms about state lines, but they could give two shits about the southern border, the country line. So good for Kyle. He's just a young man who was in a situation and was maybe a little bit in over his head. But the way he performed with that rifle, I think that could be shown in military training videos. He did not aimlessly fire his weapon. He didn't run around shooting it or pointing it at everybody. He shot when his life was in imminent danger. I mean, he held off and held off and held off until A, he was being beaten with a skateboard, B, he had a loaded Glock pointed to his head, and C, when he shot Rosenbaum, the guy who ran around screaming the N-word all night and threatening to kill everybody there, threatening to kill Kyle specifically, this Rosenbaum chases after Kyle. Who the hell chases after a guy with a rifle? First of all. So he chases after Kyle. Kyle tries to retreat and gets caught, between some cars at a car dealership, or maybe there was a wall back there, but he had nowhere to go. And he has this 36-year-old, multiple-time convicted pedophile, among many other charges, he's got this guy storming at him, throwing stuff at him, trying to grab his gun. The medical examiner said Rosenbaum had muzzle powder on his hands from trying to grab Kyle's gun. So Kyle's life was in danger. So he shot and killed the guy. This is what guns are for. You know, and people are outraged by all this. They don't understand guns. They think the AR-15 is a boogeyman. It's no different than any other rifle, unless you're talking a bolt action or something like that. It just looks different. People are scared of how it looks. So, Kyle is free. Kyle did an interesting interview with Tucker Carlson last night. I'm hoping Kyle is able to get a little downtime, a little breathing room, spend time with his family without this hanging over his head. And I think Kyle's going to be a very successful young man. He's very intelligent. He's been dealt a terrible hand here to where he's unhireable. Nobody will hire him, you know, unless he gets with some ultra-conservative company. He might go to work for MyPillow or something. I heard Matt Gaetz, congressman from Florida, offer him a job in his office, and I think that's great. But hopefully Kyle can find a way to make a meaningful life for himself despite the circumstances. That's what I hope. Of course, he's going to sue all these outlets, and he'll probably be sitting on a pile of cash. But that doesn't necessarily fulfill you. You know, it doesn't. I'm sure he had hopes and dreams. He wanted to be a firefighter, a paramedic, a cop, a nurse. You know, some sort of service-based employment where he could help other people. And I think that's noble. My dad was a firefighter. And it's a noble calling to want to help people in need. So, like I said, hopefully Kyle can get out of this and get some breathing room and get away from all the madness. Hopefully he can sue some of these people and that have defamed him and get a good chunk of money to start his life somewhere else. And just be a happy kid. I mean, he's going to live with the fact that he murdered 2 people and seriously wounded another one. He said during his interview he has trouble sleeping at night. Of course, he relives the incident. But hopefully through therapy and through money, he can find some happiness and some solace in his life. That kid did not deserve what came to him to that night. He did not deserve to have a gun pointed at his head. He did not deserve to have people throwing things at him. He did not deserve to have people kicking him in the head. He did not deserve to have people calling him the N-word, although he's a white kid. So, there you go. DeSantis over Trump. Although I love Trump and I will vote for Trump if he's on the ballot. Unless he's on the ballot against DeSantis, then I'd really have to second guess that. But I think we have a real contender here in the Republican Party. And I hate to even call him a Republican because he's more of a libertarian, but he's definitely conservative. He's definitely sharp. He's definitely a bright guy. And he's a lawyer. So he knows, when he gets up to Washington what he can and can't do based on his legal past. Trump had a hard time with that because he was always having to ask, hey, do I have the power to do this? Do I have the power to do that? So we're going to leave it there for today. Free Kyle Rittenhouse. Good thing he's out. Hopefully he can live his best life. And DeSantis 2024. We'll catch you guys later.